Welcome, everybody. We're going to forego the intro music and audio. We're going to just dive right in. You are listening to Prepper Talk Radio. For those of you who are on our Facebook and YouTube, you're live streaming with us. You're in the comments. We've got a ton of people in there already. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. We're just diving right in. I don't know why I decided to skip the audio track, the cool music. We can always do that later if we want to. But this is going to be a fun episode. I think, as usual, the content we get from you guys that are in the chat is going to lead a lot of the really big gold nuggets for tonight. But I want to give a shout out to Paris. He's actually out tonight. He decided he wanted to go see if he could find the aliens that people have been talking about, the weird night sky lights and weird other stuff in DC, and the news about what actually happened in Florida at the mall. No, I'm just kidding. He's actually at a college event for I think his youngest son. Oh my gosh. Can't believe his youngest son is already going to college or about to go to college. But yeah, sorry he's not with us tonight. We miss him. But we've got Shane, the true Burt Gummer of our group. And of course, me, the jack of all trades, master of none.
Well, yes,
my specialty. I mean, you've got so many diversities. I'm like, I built the website, guys. That's all I got.
Hey, I can't do that, man. I have no desire to learn to do that too. So very appreciative of your skills. You've got far more skills in that realm that I ever care to have. So no, you're extremely valuable. Mike, Utah Mike put up here is Paris still banned. Yeah, just wanted to make a comment with our last live. What that got taken down. How fast, Scott? Did that come down?
Within 30 minutes. I think it was less.
Oh,
than
really?
that.
Okay.
It was fast.
So because of some of the comments we made, we were labeled as medical misinformation for that. Go ahead.
Specifically about the use of lemons.
At least that's what they said, right? Who knows what the truth is, right?
That's where they tagged it. That's where they flagged it. So we're not going to talk about medical use of lemons. I'm probably already put us in trouble just saying that. But yeah.
Well, that's also what we need to be careful about tonight as well is election misinformation, right? They label us about medical misinformation. We still also need to be careful, tiptoe a little bit, which I hate, about election misinformation, right? Because that's kind of at least one of the topics we want to talk about tonight. So,
yeah. Well, and as a reminder, tonight's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at Survival Frog. Go to survivalfrog.com and check out all their cool little gear. They've got some bivvies, water bags. I've got their bivvies, their little emergency Mylar bivvies. I think they're great. I've used them camping. I've got their water bag. It's a dry bag, but I use it for both. I keep an extra one of these in my emergency kits because if I want to keep something dry, it does a really good job of that. If I want to go get some water or maybe even just carry additional stuff, it's got a handle. It's great. And I tested it. I held water in that for 3 days. No leaking, no loss. It's fantastic. So check it out. But the best thing over there is their emergency survival foods. That's fully cooked meat, good for 25 years. You don't need water to rehydrate. It's just crack open that can and munch and munch and munch till you're chubby like me. All right, let's get back to it. So tonight we are going into elections. We're going into what's been going on in October. We're going to pull punches so that we don't get another mark and get banned, but we're still going to drag it out and get some good information out there. And yes, Paris was banned. He's just gone for the night due to a weird
his radical comments about using natural herbs and natural foods and such, that it really is not the actual medicine, right? I mean,
he was radicalized by a gardener, and we're trying to get him back.
Right, he's got to go to re-education camp, right?
Re-education camp. Oh boy.
Well, that's what we had to do. So what I had to do, so I've been keep getting these email notices from our school district, right? Your daughter Allison hasn't had all her vaccinations. You need to provide that or fill out this waiver. And as part of filling out the vax waiver, I had to go through a 15-minute re-education
Oh, yeah.
training online and answer the questions correctly. I felt like I was in a freaking re-education camp. It's ridiculous. And so that's exactly, what it really is. If you open your eyes and see it for what it really is, that's what it is. And so it just gets me heated up, to say the
Well, that's
least.
why you should enroll your kids in the same school mine go to. It'd be a long drive for you.
At home, right? Come to your
Yep,
house.
homeschool.
I'll drop them off at your
Drop
house.
them off every day. It lasts about an hour and a half, and then we got to send them home.
My son, my 17-year-old son, he does the homeschool thing.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So Allie she did last year as well, and she wanted to go be with her friends. And I get it. She's very stressed out. She gets days where like, I don't want to go. And I totally get it, right? That's not the subject of today, but yeah.
Well, it seems like everything going on is to increase our anxiety, right? There's so many people that I talk to, they're worried about everything. And things that 15, 20 years ago, we never even gave a second thought to, at least our generation. Now it's like a primary daily focus, fight, and a struggle. Then you add on everything that's going on with the election, everything that's going on with the news cycle, and they're like, oh, now there's this garbage comment from President Biden, and everyone's freaking out about that. Is that the October surprise, right? Well, and then Trump is struggling to recuperate from his rally from the other night because now Puerto Rico is pissed off at him, right? So there's so much going on. There's so much mudflinging. There's so much misinformation intentionally that it keeps everyone in a state of, holy crap, what's going to happen next? There's a little bit of a level of hysteria, I feel like, at all times anymore. And so thoughts, feelings on that, like I have nieces and nephews that I really worry about because they cannot keep their composure because they turn on social media and everything's scaring them. Or they go driving down to the grocery store and they can have a panic attack in the aisle because they can't find what they're looking for.
Well, it's the exposure is what it is. I think, I mean, even for myself, I keep thinking, man, I just need to unplug and stop listening to this and just focus on my skills. Homesteading, is where I'm headed. That's, my way of life, where I want to be in the next year, or, to 2.5 at the most. And I'd really like to unplug, but I also feel I'd be doing myself a disservice if I didn't stay connected and at least, like I said many times, I just watch the headlines and dive in here and there as needed. But it's still and I have to admit and be honest with myself, it does create some anxiety for myself, and especially with combining that with heavy workload and those types of things and family issues and so forth. It really takes a toll, and it can make people sick. Fortunately, I haven't experienced that yet, but a little bit of heartburn here and there. It's tends to wear on me a little bit, but I don't know exactly where to go with that. I haven't figured that out myself.
I think it's just we're going to continue to see that emotional distress getting worse. I don't see that there's a solution to fix it other than natural remedies, wisdom over knowledge. Like, I feel like we're the most inundated time of the world, where everyone has so much information at their fingertips, but they cannot discern truth from lies. And because of that, many people struggle to understand what's really going on and struggle to understand how much control they really have of their own life. And so they feel lost and they feel anxious because they don't know when the next shoe is going to drop and the next tipping point is going to hit. Which goes back to, let's explain what October surprise means. I know it came from the 80s and it's an election cycle catchphrase. It's been used for a long time, but it was really popularized in the 80s. Back when Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan were going at it.
But it's more oriented towards stock market, correct? I mean, is that correct?
Well, let's see. So they talked about, there was some parts of it was the stock market. Then there was the whole Iranian conflict that came, the hostages that came right after that. But everything leading up to it really goes back to economic, like what's going to happen. And now we get to run it every 4 years. Like, oh, what's this year's October surprise? And it's really what kind of scandal is going to happen that's going to mess things up for voting, right?
Well, I've been trying to watch probably a little bit more closely than usual the events of the month, and I have to admit I haven't done my best. It's because a lot of times I just don't want to. I want to unplug, especially on the weekends. I don't really pay attention. But I think most likely there are things happening behind the scenes that we will not see for months, years. I mean, if ever, right? And so who really knows what's going on? There's a lot of clues, and that we talk about that all the time, that just by seeing what's going on out there and putting those puzzle pieces together and coming up with our own, like playing the game of Clue, right? Mrs. Scarlet in the ballroom with the knife, right? Putting all these puzzle pieces together and making a guess. And then, later down the road, we figure out what the truth is. So, and maybe at some point that's not necessary for me to do that anymore. And maybe it's because I reach a certain level of preparation to where it doesn't matter anymore, where I really don't even need to know these things. I'm just going to live my life, and I don't need to prepare for anything specific, and I'm still kind of trying to balance that as I kind of mentioned.
Yeah, there's that precariousness of how do I balance? Where do I balance? And the reality of, am I on the tightrope at a very high height, or am I just actually balancing on the curb? Right. And it's just a step off the curb and I'm okay. Doing the temperature checks, like every month at the end of the month, we do the temperature check. That's kind of what this episode is, but it's more election focused. What's really going on and what's really happening. And we roll out another month and we see, okay, over the last month, it's not been crazy, but I feel like it has been incrementally, inch by inch, or even not even centimeter, millimeter by millimeter. We're moving and moving and moving to the point of eventually the recovery is going to be a civil war, right? That's going to be the fallout. I don't think we're there yet. I mean, we've got ballot boxes being burned in the Pacific Northwest. That I think are some pretty isolated incidents of weird insanity. Don't know why people feel like they need to do that, but for some reason, 2 of them have been burned in the last couple of days. Hundreds of ballots gone.
And there's a lot of other events that are happening around that specifically. And I don't know if I really want to get into those types of details, but Practical Civilian made a comment here. There's a lot of fear mongering going on. I hear that a lot. Oh, we're now in World War III, and Civil War is coming, and all this, and martial law. And so, I guess the question I want to throw out is, what's really the difference between fear mongering and the truth, and fact-based reporting, or whatever you want to call it, because people can call anything fear mongering. Oh, it scares me, so you're fear mongering. Maybe what's your opinion on that? I know I've got my definition, but
so most of the time when I see fear mongering, I identify it with someone who's trying to make money or gain fame by spreading negative news, we're right on the cusp of civil war. There's going to be a pandemic breakout. There's going to be something, right? And I feel like part of the October surprise is that, and it's to really create a sense of unease, so that any kickoff topic, any kickoff point can cause more pandemonium, and they can get really more mileage out of any incident that happens during that time. A fearmonger to me is someone who's using that to increase fear to sell you something, or increase fear to get your attention, to try to change your perspective to align with theirs. And the only other way I can look at that is kind of, it's almost like Stockholm syndrome, right? Those type of fearmongers are looking to damage you into a way to where you're fully relying on them, and they become kind of your savior, or they become the person you love and trust and respect, even though they've done nothing for you.
I like that.
They've abused you. And that is what I see a lot of fearmongers do. especially if you hop on if you hop on social media this month, that's like I would say 60% of the preparedness content out there right now is fear mongering.
Mhm.
I don't post as much as I used to. We don't post a whole lot other than we do our lives and we
Yeah.
have our community threads that we talk in. And so we don't get a lot of traction of finding new people because we're not fear mongering.
It
We're
doesn't
trying
attract as
to,
many people. Yeah.
yeah, we're trying to help increase peace. Like that is our mission. Our mission is to create prepared families, prepared communities, right? Create an idea of resilience and a really help you identify yourself as someone who can take care of themselves and then show you simple ways to do it, right? We have one of the most fantastic communities that I've ever been a part of, and that's our emergency prep and self-reliance group on Facebook. If you're not part of it, hop in there. We get great content from so many different people in that group, sharing things they've learned, sharing experiences. Our episode that's dropping next Tuesday is going to be all about ham radios. And one of our group members in there, Joseph, who's been a longtime listener through iHeart, joined the group and provided some fantastic feedback. We're like, let's get you on. We just did an episode on ham radios that he was on. It was awesome. Like
Yeah,
you were
it's
geeking out. I was just half the time I'm like, wait, you can do what?
Well, we
Wait,
really
you can do what?
expanded on maybe lesser discussed topics and just kind of wet my whistle into wanting to learn more. Right. So
Mhm.
that it was really nice that way.
Oh yeah, it was fun. So guys, watch for that. It's going to be next Tuesday. It's going to drop, but it was really a lot of fun. And thank you, Joseph, for being part of that.
Yeah, and another comment here Joe dropped here is that fear mongering is how they sell products. So if someone is saying, "Hey, be scared of this, buy this," okay, that's very clear that that's fear mongering, trying to take advantage. And I think there's definitely, at least for me, if I sound fear mongering or if I put something in the group that maybe sounds like, "Oh, Shane's a fear monger," it's really at a level of just being more concerned that people know about something that's potentially going to happen. And I think I do get caught up in that a little bit, in that this is really important to me and I want to make sure to spread this out, but maybe I haven't vetted it as much as I should have it in the moment, and just wanted to get it out and say, hey, be aware of this. And I think there is a little bit of danger in maybe not going far enough, right? Not sounding that warning voice, and sounding the shofar, blowing that horn. And that's something I actually have a shofar, and I can't blow it very well, so I want to try and prepare for next time to actually blow the shofar here on the show, and maybe try and do that at the beginning of each show. Blow the warning horn, right? To sound the warning cry, and because I think we are. And again, I don't want to sound fear mongering here because I tend to do that. I was just about to say something like that. Sounds like Shane's a fear monger if you say that. So I'm thinking again in my head, but it's definitely time to be prepared, and not just getting ready, but be ready, right? And take those maybe extreme, I'm using the air quotes, extreme steps that you need right now to build your pantry, to do those things that will get you along for a couple of months or a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about the election. There's a lot of talk and maybe fear mongering about what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks, couple of months, several months, for the result of the election, of this selection. I'm going to call it a selection. Some of you will disagree with me on that, but I think either way, depending on which way go ahead, Scott, go ahead and hit this.
Sorry. No, you're good.
Yeah.
Well, it's just, this selection, that's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things like with fear mongering is, as WebDad pointed out, is the political landscape. If you really watch the political landscape and look at the campaigns, what are the promises? What are the slandering fears that they push on you? Oh, well, if you vote for that candidate, XYZ is going to happen. You're going to lose your rights.
Both sides.
Right. And they're both using it. And, well, and not even just both. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't know of a single politician who doesn't fling mud. Because even when the campaign says this message was approved by so-and-so, right? It was their group, someone in their group sent them a text and an email and got it approved. But like, there's so much that there's mudslinging, but if you look at the policies they've pushed, look at the things that they've done, and actually measure out, okay, out of all the things they promised, what actually happened, and use that. That's intellectual, research-based study to find out what did they do. Are they likely to keep on that path, or are they likely to veer from that path? And that will help you eliminate the fear, because the more knowledge and use knowledge to judge experience, that helps you create wisdom. But if you're not doing those things, you're going to operate in a level of cluelessness it used to be comical. Now it's extremely detrimental to your life. And you've basically made yourself a target for misinformation and a target for more of the same. You're going to fall for everything. And we listen to a lot of different podcasts on our own. I love snippets from different podcasts, but if you don't stand for something, it's easy to fall for anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where we are as a country, as a nation, but as a world as well. And a lot of the people I talk to internationally, they're like, you're not looking too good, America. I'm like, yeah, we're not. We're very divided. And we're divided because of the misinformation. We're divided because of the false narratives. We're divided because we're not being told the truth. And everybody thinks their side is right. But if we look at it, and I think we talked about this 2 weeks ago, we look at it, there are two wings on a bird, and it can't fly with just one wing. But it's two wings on a bird. They may have completely opposing ideas and project different opinions and things, but it's all part of the same thing. We've got to heal the whole. We've got to heal everybody together and try to fix things together. And this month, with the election coming up in just a couple of days, people are going to get really, really angry because so-and-so won or so-and-so lost. They're going to feel hurt, betrayed,
robbed.
They're going to have resentment against anyone that voted differently than them. And so I think now we need to have more compassion and seek to understand the people who are angry at us, whatever our decisions were. Seek to understand them so that we can address them with compassion and then educate them with truth.
Well, I think, I look at the info war, because that's really what it is. It's going on. It's the information war. Sure, call it left or right, call it what you will, call it good or evil. And I think if we're honest with ourselves, if I'm honest with myself, and see it for what it is, propaganda is war. It is a declaration of war. Mm-hmm. And for how many years now it's been legal, air quotes, to propagandize the U.S. American population. Our government has made that legal. And part of the October surprise, one of the things that came out, trying to think of what day it was, I want to say like the 17th or something, where the U.S. government made it legal to, I'm gonna find my notes here so I can be accurate for you guys, and you guys know what I'm talking about. The
2013 Act to
October 17th, DoD Directive 5240.01, where the U.S. military is now authorized to kill Americans. And we won't go into the details of that. You should go look that up and read that for yourself. That is a declaration of war, if you ask me. And not meaning to fearmonger, if that's what you might consider this, is think about the first casualty of war is the truth. And so propaganda is lies, and calling American citizens criminals and so on and so forth is, in my opinion, a declaration of war. So what do we do about that? How do we each individually address that? Do we go into the woods and hide? Do we unplug completely from social media? Do we actually step up and try and battle against this? Do we have any impact, or are we going to only suffer the repercussions of a tyrannical government?
Well, a tyrannical government and all the different agencies and all the different groups
mm-hmm.
and all the different media biases. Like, there's no honesty anymore in any of that. And so we have to be very good at learning to read between the lines, right? And we have to learn and understand what our actions can impact, because we can still do some great things to fix things. And I think it's more grassroots and more local now than ever, right? Like I'll have arguments with friends and in-laws all the time. Well, I'll say debates. Arguments get a little too heated and nobody learns in an argument. But in a debate, in a discussion with opposing views, like you'll learn something. But there's definitely a history of misinformation, especially since Barack Obama made it legal for all the media companies to lie to the public for the quote greater good, right? So now we have to take into consideration those things. We also need to take into consideration, okay, so maybe there was a new law put in that the U.S. military can go against civilians and attack civilians. I don't fully understand that, but here's the thing. Everyone I've talked to that's in the military has explicitly said, I will not obey an order to hurt an unarmed citizen. Never going to happen. And when I talk to police officers, one of my good friends, one of my neighbors here is a police officer, well, just retired, but he for years has been dealing with the worst of the worst on the daily. And he's like, it's amazing how limited their area of impact is to who's around them and who's buying into what they're doing. He's like, as soon as you get away from that, you see the scales fall off your eyes and you can see and understand things a lot easier and see and understand and recognize how much you've been used. But you can easily be dissuaded because of the media. You can easily be lied to because of the fearmongers. What I really want to get into is like, what do we do for the next 30 days? Knowing in the history, what happened in 2016, there were, after the election, there were people marching. There were, I don't want to say riots. What are they called?
Demonstrations.
Demonstrations. Lots of things. And then again in 2020. So what are we going to see in 2024? I think we are going to see some small area riots going on.
Well, is Black Lives Matter, is that going to come back and they're going to be actually out in the streets and burning cities down? And that's a lot of the talk, is that, oh, this is gonna happen, if, I guess, either way, because if Trump wins, the left is going to blame the patriots or whatever, kind of like they did on January 6th and so forth. And then if Trump wins, oh man, that's going to be, I can't imagine what's going to happen on the, if Trump wins, the chaos that will actually be set off. And it'll be justified, in their minds. Absolutely.
Well, they're emotionally vulnerable individuals who live in a state of, I'm constantly being attacked, who are the ones that are going to have the biggest problem. But let's also go back and look at how many times have these demonstrations and these rallies and these riots been funded, where the people who were there were bussed in and paid to be there, or at least a portion. Yeah. That is what we're going to be looking at. And so that goes back to, okay, what do I do? How do I change my situation? How do I improve my safety going forward? Remember, only you can ensure your own safety. You can't rely on somebody else to protect you. That goes back to your 2A. Make sure you're packing or doing whatever you feel comfortable with to create a reasonable sense of safety for yourself and those around you. I just watched the video earlier today, and I've been a big, if there's a home invasion scenario, I've been go out attacking mindset all the time. Sweep the home, clear the home, eliminate. And I just watched this interview where the Special Forces former, I think he was a Green Beret, was talking about, he's like, I will never sweep my home. He's like, it's too dangerous. I'm losing cover. Yeah. I'm losing understanding of where my wife and kids are. There's too much going on. He's like, I will defend my home, He's like, the number one thing is I put a perimeter alarm so I know as soon as someone's on my property, way before they get to the house. So then I can defend where I need to be. I can be in a safe place where I've got cover and I can neutralize a threat without a problem, unless it's the Green Berets or Delta Force coming in. He's like, it was funny. He's like, if it's the FBI, well, you don't have a problem. But if it's a special forces unit, we're going to have issues. I'm not going to do well. And I'm just like, dude, that's some guts to just drop that line. But he's like, if someone's coming at your house, it's most likely a druggie looking for a score or someone who just has bad intentions. And so keeping them at bay is your best bet. Working in a defensive pattern is your best bet. He's like, I train where I meet somebody at the area of defensibility where they don't see me coming. He's like, everyone he goes into a kill box with and does training with, he's like, I've seen a guy hold off 20 professionals just giggling in the corner in a safe place, popping rounds off every time they pass the doorway. And he's like, he's completely out of sight, out of the range, out of the field, and he can take out more people than are going to get through there. And that completely changed my stance on what I'm going to do. And I'm going to reevaluate my situation based on that. But it doesn't mean I'm going to stop what I'm currently doing. It means I'm going to train and get better at what I want to do, which leads me to carry. Right? Yeah. Practice and carry.
And what I wanted to mention, next thought that came to my mind is that, more October surprise. And I don't know that anything that I've seen so far this month has been a real big surprise.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm being honest with myself, is that kind of expected some of these things. I kind of expected a black swan, to pop up, something completely unexpected. And maybe I just haven't looked hard enough. But, one thing that happened today, I think it was today, that really caught my attention is that we know, and we've been seeing in the news, that North Korea has been sending soldiers over to Russia to help with the war in Ukraine. Whether these soldiers are actually in Ukraine fighting, I don't know. But they have been sent over. And another thing that U.S. specifically said today is that, I think it was today, maybe it's yesterday, the U.S. authorizes the use of any of the weapons that they have sent over to Ukraine to strike within Russia if North Korea enters the war in Ukraine. Okay, to me, this was absolutely intentional. Oh, we need to put this statement out because we found out that that North Korea has sent soldiers over to Russia to fight in Ukraine. So it is a further escalation, absolutely set on purpose to escalate. And so,
well, it even sounds like it's more of a baiting escalation,
yes,
right?
Yeah,
intentionally
absolutely.
baiting us into doing something.
Mm-hmm.
That's really interesting. I hadn't dug into that yet, but it makes me think of all the people who've come over illegally into the United States, and what are they doing besides hogging resources and taking money away from where it should be going right now, like Ukraine and everybody else. Like it should be going to Asheville. It should be going to North Carolina and
that's
Florida.
Disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. What's going on there?
I like this. No, go ahead. I like this comment from WebDad. He believes for months now that we are one radical person away from a major event, and the follow-up to that was from Rebecca. She's like, yeah, we'll have to see who BlackRock decides to pay to light that match. That is probably the most astute observation. I would not pull it past that organization to be the trigger finger on the next lighter.
Well, we've gotten to the point in our economy that it needs to be stimulated, and the best way to stimulate the economy is through a war footing, right? Mm-hmm. To have a wartime budget, and of course, I think the U.S. In particular wants. This is the only saving grace, the only way to continue on in the dollar hegemon, whatever you want to call it. To continue as long as they can, to continue milking dollars from the system and gaining resources and assets. I mean, have you guys been watching and seeing what's going on with gold and silver? I don't think it's some people say it's taking off. No, not yet. Not yet. This is natural, and the markets are still suppressed. They're still manipulated, yet they still continue to climb. I mean, gold's up 35% year to date, silver's up 43% year to date, and that's still with the suppression. I think when the dollar breaks, when the system breaks, when they can no longer manipulate, watch out. And I think as I mentioned before, that's one of my signs that when I'm going to be bugging out, right? It was when that breaks, is that's going to be my opportunity to unplug and at least take a couple weeks, couple months off, something like that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you brought that up, because it's like we are living Weekend at Bernie's right now.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, I mean, our economy is Bernie.
It's propped up by debt.
And it's not just propped up by one person. It's propped up by everybody that can help hold his head up and try to fool the world. But it is on borrowed time. Our housing market, we're seeing it decline. Our construction market's declining. Our commodities market's declining. Gold and silver are up, but they're not up. They're steady. Everything else is down. And so it's this false appearance of up. That's really what we're looking at. And as you know, I mean, from a historical record on gold and silver, one of my favorite books is The Creature at Jekyll Island. It's a very tough read, but it goes into the economy, goes into the central banking cabals, goes into understanding like every reset goes back to starting over with gold and silver for real money, not this fiat currency. And we are so borrowed on the fiat currency that it is absolutely dead and being propped up. And one little domino could let the whole thing go.
Yeah, sorry, just commenting here.
No, I honestly, I don't know how quickly that's going to happen. That's my biggest fear is the economic collapse. I shouldn't say fear, concern. It doesn't keep me up at night, but it keeps me going, how is this still moving? Because if there's no gas in an engine, the car stalls and you can't move it. You can't even move it. Like, you got to get 3 or 4 people pushing on that sucker. But our economy somehow still is moving falsely. It's being propped up. And we think we're driving somewhere, but I guess in reality, maybe somebody's just running by with fake trees on the side of the windows of the car and makes us think we're moving. But it's been dead and parked for years. I don't know, I'd love to hear some more of the comment. Most of the comments, for those of you guys that are listening late or on the replay, a lot of it is right now we're talking about the breadcrumbs, things that are going on with Soros funding, BlackRock. It's nuts.
Yeah, I think it's not unreasonable to recommend, because this is what I'm planning on doing is for the week of the election, I'm really not going to go stray far from home, right? I'm going to stay away from downtown Salt Lake, anywhere I think I could potentially get boxed in, Wolverines. Absolutely. I just watched that again the other day. It's so good, but it's so bad. I'd love all those actors. They're just so classic. But make sure I'm stocked up. My gas tank is full. I don't necessarily have to go to the store that week. I always plan my trips to the store. They're very strategic, very early morning, when very few people are there. I go to the local 24-hour grocery store and those types of things. I think whatever your concerns might be, wherever you live, just be a little extra cautious that week. I don't think it needs, I need to be paranoid and just not go anywhere that week, but I'm going to be very extra watchful that week and I guess call it a little more paranoid, if you want to use that word.
Well, just head on a swivel a little bit more.
Yeah.
Right? Head on a swivel. You're not
keep the AR in the back seat with my my plate carrier and
well, okay, maybe if you want to go that route, but instead of acting from a place of fear and panic and anxiety, acting from a place of practicality, right? If the situation changes, if I'm going to clean up garbage, I'm going to wear my grubby clothes. I'm not going to wear my suit.
Mhm.
But if I'm going to a wedding, I'm going to wear a suit and not my grubby clothes. So you're adjusting to the environment, adjusting to the expectation,
Yeah.
right? That there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's actually wisdom in doing that. But knowing what I know of the fragility of our system, having extra on hand, always a good idea. I'm taking out a little extra cash this week just because I don't have as much as
Yeah.
I usually like. So I'm double checking my preps that I use over the next 2 to 3 weeks to make sure everything's ready to go.
Yeah.
That's
a
my
good point.
October thing I do every year anyways, but I kind of got
Mhm.
behind, and so I'm doing it at the tail end of the month. But double check your preps. Carry extra cash. If you got gold and silver, great. You're already ahead of some steps there. But I can't eat that. So how's my food storage? How's my pantry? Is everything topped off? Right. If I don't have the funds to top it off, do I qualify to use local services solutions like local pantries? Right. You can get some extra food that way. Look at how to expand or extend your food. One of my favorite things to do, one of the cheapest things to do, add rice to everything or add potatoes to everything. Increase the mileage of every meal so that you can go a little farther, go a little longer, and save a little. Save a lot of money. We had a couple different canners on this last few months. Fantastic at saving money by canning, saving money at being self-reliant. It's a little late to get into that for it to be beneficial for next week, but go do your grocery budget, go do your grocery run today so that you don't have to worry about it on November 4th or 5th or 6th or 7th in case somebody decides to pop off and be stupid in your neighborhood. All right. We've seen people block freeways before and protest. Like, there are going to be people who do dumb things no matter what's going on. And so we've just got to be aware of that. Not panicking, not fearing, just aware.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
then we got Joseph telling us that he's canning beef stew this weekend. It's too bad I don't live near him. That sounds delicious. Rebecca dropped this one in. This is helpful. Add rice, potatoes, lentils, pastas, oatmeal. Any of those will help stretch any meal further.
I don't like lentils. I don't know. I just don't.
I hate lentils.
I don't like lentils. Probably an acquired taste. I didn't grow up eating lentils, so
give me some black beans, white beans. Those I'm good. But yeah, lentils,
yeah.
I'm like meh.
Yeah,
burned one too many times as a kid with weird meals I wasn't ready for. But
polenta.
Polenta?
Have some polenta. Corn. What do you call that? Cornmeal or whatever. Oh, yeah, that's a southern or a South American dish that I'd learned to like. But I mean, I've got a long list of things here. We talk about we're coming up against our usual time where we say adios for the night. But anything else online? I guess my question is to everybody out there: what else did you see this month that maybe I didn't see that concerned you as an October surprise? Drop that in, the comments after we're done, on the YouTube channel or wherever, and we'll start a discussion there. Polenta grits. Okay. Yeah.
Polenta is just grits? I love grits.
Pretty much is what it is.
I'm like, what are you talking about? What's polenta?
With a nice tuco, spaghetti type sauce, but let's start a conversation in the chat, after this is up on YouTube, and let's list some things that you saw as that maybe you were surprised to see in October, because I'd like to see, because I know I didn't keep track of everything, and I'd like to add to my list and maybe put something out a little more formal as to what really applies to that October surprise. That'd be cool.
So we're being told we need to start a V group and live stream on there. I don't even know what V means.
Yeah,
V
I don't know.
Here's the problem. I'm an 80s kid. Like you said, V Group. I'm thinking V, the TV show. Like, are we talking like a lizard people
Visitors.
live
No,
stream?
I'm sure
Like
that's
visitors? Or I don't know. I just don't know. But WebDad, Polenta is a lot of money. Grits is cheap. I'll go with grits all day, every day. Make friends with farmers. Make friends with your local backyard chicken breeder.
X. He meant X, not V. X.
Oh, X. Okay, there we go. I'm like
V. What group is that? I know. Practical only knows a lot more than us about a lot of things. So teach us, Practical.
It's funny. You could get sucked into the weeds on any topic, anytime. But I don't feel like there's any weeds in the world of prep. Like there's so many things of value that you can learn.
That's true. Yeah.
And for reference, like last night I met with block captains for emergency response for our city. I live in Bountiful City, Utah, and they have a really good organized group. And so we're meeting like we normally do, and we're talking. It was funny because one of the people in that group is like, "Wait, you've got food storage?" And I'm like, "You're part of the emergency and disaster management team. You're volunteered to help when there's a disaster, but you're not preparing for a disaster?" Well, I've got water barrels stored. And I'm like, okay, what's in your water barrels? They didn't have any water. And that just blew my mind because what's the point of having empty barrels? So again, double check what you have, but definitely make friends with everybody that's older than you, like a generation or two, because they've got knowledge and resources that you're going to need either now or in the future. And one of my other favorite things, I know we're at the end of the season for that. If there's any yard sales and stuff like that, hit them all up because you can find canning supplies. You can find building equipment. Like you can find all kinds of cool stuff at yard sales.
That's pretty sad. When I go to the yard sales, I see people selling those types of things. I want to educate them. Like, don't sell this. You're going to need this, right? Instead of taking advantage, say, yeah, I'll take those, pack of 12 quart jars for $10, or $5 or whatever. So
maybe focus on the estate sales.
Okay. Yeah.
They can't use it, right?
Exactly. Well, the kids should be keeping it for themselves as well, right? Instead of getting rid of it. So,
yeah. So I guess as we're wrapping up the episode tonight, we talked about keep your head on a swivel, get a few things resorted and taken care of now, kind of stack up on what you need, make sure you're good to go. Don't stress it. Just be ready because things might go sideways for a day, might go sideways for a month. We don't prep just for these situations. We prep for all of life. We prep for, I lost my job. We prep for, I got an injury that now I can't work, or now I'm disabled the rest of my life. We prep for natural disasters, man-made, and we prep for stupidity because a lot of people around us just don't use their head and people vote for them. And so we've got to be more thoughtful and more responsible for ourselves so that we can live resiliently and not be fragile.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, I think I guess my parting words would just be, reach out to your family. That's the hardest thing I think I have is I've got brothers and sisters who know how intense or understand how intense I am with this, and yet they do nothing, and it's really sad. Or let me say, it will be sad when something happens and they're not prepared. And that's my biggest concern is, and so far, right, this hasn't paid off. Being a prepper really hasn't. And okay, I'm saying that, I guess, tongue in cheek. For me, this pays off every day. Being a prepper, being prepared, a person living this way pays off to me every single day because I recognize the benefits of it. And I'm trying to live out of this world. I don't want to be part of Babylon, right? I want to be outside this world. And just seeing my family and friends participating in that and not catching the vision is depressing.
What are the benefits you see every day as a prepper?
I mean, even the smallest things. We're talking about here on our chat here about I dehydrated most of my tomatoes this year. I'm going to grind those up into a powder and use it for my own tomato paste. I don't have to buy it from the store. I mean, that's some more old world type living that I think most of my family and friends don't even understand or even have a clue about. So I think that's what I'm thinking is I can appreciate those types of things more than most. And others would say, well, why do that? Just go buy a case of tomato paste down at the store. Well, because I'm building self-sufficiency and confidence, and that when things happen, they're not an emergency for me. So
Well, then I ask the question: have you ever had a feeling of accomplishment going to the store and buying something? Have you ever been like, "Hey guys, I went to the store and I bought a can of tomato juice"?
well, it always
Have
feels
you
nice
bragged
to
about that to anybody?
yeah, it's nice to provide
Right?
for your family. That feels good, right? To have a full cupboard, a full
Right, but did
pantry.
it
Yeah,
give you a
absolutely.
sense of accomplishment?
Right. Absolutely. Yep.
Whereas everything in the world of preparedness, I can't really go off on any tangent within that world and say, I don't feel like this has not taught me something. Like first aid, I know more about first aid because I've become a prepper than I did before. And I grew up kind of this way, right? I know more about food storage because I'm continually learning than I did 2-3 years ago, right? You learned about
Yeah.
you learned about um, pancake mix, right?
hmm
We all did. I learned about it a couple of years ago. Like, holy smokes! And you learned about that just recently. I learned a ton about ham radio today,
hmm
and now it's like I
That's
feel
cool.
more capable of doing more things because of everything I'm learning from this group of fantastic people that I've surrounded myself with. Right? You inspire me to be a better provider, to be a better friend, and to be a better prepper. Paris does the same, right? Everyone I see in the chat right now, I can say the same exact thing for you. You all add value to my life and have provided wisdom to me and to others in our groups because you have different experiences and you have different expertises, I would say. Right? Everyone has a different area within prepping that they geek out about. And I'm kind of I don't know that I really geek out about one thing more than others. I get excited about all of it, and so I just share that. I'm the self-entitled or self-proclaimed um, gateway drug to prepping. Like I can get people excited about it. I guess my expertise is in planning, and that's what I teach more than anything else. Is if you don't have a plan, you've already decided and succumbed to failure. But if you have a plan, and if you use the PACE method, what's that PACE method again, Shane?
Primary, alternate, contingency, emergency.
And he's got it.
So four levels of preparedness, of planning,
And if you
and,
have
and
that,
doing it consciously and competently, right?
right, and if you have that, if one thing goes away, or even say all four levels or all four layers fall apart, you can create something new on the fly because you've studied it out in your mind,
hmm
right? And you've practiced enough things that you can know, oh, this is not going to work, or oh, this might work, or this will definitely work. And that's why we prep is to learn and to grow and to be better versions of ourselves than we were yesterday, but also to outlast all the people who aren't smart enough to do this. And it's frustrating because we've all got family members who won't and friends who won't. And we're going to have an even harder conversation with them at a certain point to say, I'm sorry, I don't have enough resources for me and you. But we have to keep moving forward to prepare for ourselves the best we can. And I agree. I find so much joy in prep. My wife cracks me up because she wasn't really into it when we first got married. And now she's like, honey, I want to spend a lot more money on XYZ. We need to buy a ton of this. And I'm like, what? She's like, I was reading this thing and we got to buy a ton more of this. Okay, we'll put it on the budget. And we do. And it happens. And it's awesome. Guys, thanks for listening. Don't forget to hit that like and share. Get involved. Here are some 3 things I want to leave you with at the end of the day. 1, work on your mobility, your flexibility, your strength, right? Get more active. Be like Shane, where you can kick and you can stretch and you can kick and yell.
In my 50s. Yeah.
Right. I'm stoked because every day since my surgery, I'm getting more and more capable. I'm loving it. I've missed this. Number one, that's first thing. Focus on improving your fitness, your health, and your well-being. That also includes your mental health. Keep your mental health in check. Make sure you're doing things to eliminate fear, increase confidence, and create a more well-rounded version of you. You're the best version of you. And last, stay close to God. This should be first. Stay close to God in all the things you're doing. He will direct your path. He will direct you to know what the right thing to do, the most important thing to do for your family, no matter what's going on. And he will preserve you if you are listening to him.
Amen.
With that, I'm gonna shout out to all of you guys again. Thank you for being part of the live tonight. Thanks to those of you guys who are listening on the replay, for watching on the replay. Make sure you're over on YouTube. Hit that like and subscribe. Make sure you're in our group, Emergency Prep and Self-Reliance. And if you want to get better prepared and less scared, check out our library of recommended readings on our website. Go to preppertalkradio.com/library, and you'll see all the different books that we recommend. Those are books we have, books we keep. Also, check out our good friends over at amp-3.net to get some seriously good deals on first aid. Use the code PrepperTalk to save 15%. And again, our friends over at survivalfrog.com, 10% off if you use the code PrepperTalk10. That's the number 10. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for not tuning out. Thanks for being ready-minded and keeping the head on a swivel. And I will catch you, and Shane will catch you on the next episode. Thank you.
See you guys.
Paris too. He'll be back. I'm totally fumbling my intro and closing today. I don't know what's going on, guys. Thanks for being here. You're fantastic.
Yeah, we love you guys. We'll see you next week.